What do you get when you take a former manager plus report combo, who are now real life friends, one a management coach and sudden viral internet star who shoots from the hip, and the other a CX exec turned advisor who overthinks everything? This podcast. Welcome to the Business of Humans. I'm Joe, founder of CX Joe Advisory and the Overthinker. My partner in crime is Lynda. She's the founder of Leveled Up Leadership and the Internet Star. Join us as we talk about business, relationships, humanity, success, and also failure through the lens of friendship, heaps of radical transparency and honesty, and zero BS. Let's get started with today's episode.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Lynda. How's it going?
Doing well. The people don't know, but I'm going to say it like we had a hard time getting this started today because we were giggling. And so I have tears in my eyes.
I had my first ever case of the giggles starting the podcast. Well, I didn't have the right thing open on my screen. Plus, our last topic in our pre-recording banter was about awkward situations in life. And I was basically sharing with Lynda that if we ever want to do like a full season or 10 seasons or a lifetime of seasons about making things awkward, that would be a great topic for me. So then I was thinking about like one particularly awkward situation I created. And then suddenly it was time to record. And then it occurred to me that, I had to kind of context switch. And then, I was like reading out the intro, which is like, hello, blah, blah, blah. And I just couldn't pull it off. I just couldn't do it.
It's all right. It's all right. Because we're humans, right? And we're talking about being human at work. And so we have these moments. So
absolutely. Do you want to tell any stories of being really awkward, or were you going to tell us another great story? Because I had an awkward story.
Yes, tell the awkward story. I was just going to talk about something totally different, but let's talk about being awkward for a minute. Like, let's do that.
I'm just like using this podcast fully as a confessional at this point. I mean, clearly it's like a therapy session, but apparently it's also just exercising everything. All right, so I'll tell my story, and then you go. Either an awkward story or anything else. The time I was recalling, and I have to shout out our friend Victoria. This is from Daily Harvest Days, as a lot of our stories are. But so when I first started there, I was going to the office every day, and I was sort of like pulling it off. I was like an acceptable level of awkward, as in awkward social anxiety every day heading to the office. But like, what else do? You have to do it, so you pull it off. Then COVID happened, and then we were all working remotely. For that whole period, I was with DH through and through. So whatever that like 1 to 2 year period is. So now I was there long enough that there were some days we started to come back. It was like a little bit of hybrid style starting to return. So you'd come in for like a big day of meetings. And it was also like reunions with everybody. Like, oh, I haven't seen you in person for 8 months. So now the social anxiety and the awkwardness is like off the charts.
Yeah.
So I was like texting with our friend Victoria, who I don't think she'd mind me saying is also like, she's amazing, but we share our awkward, moments with each other. So she's like, how are you doing? How's your anxiety level? I'm like, it's really high. It's really high. Okay, I'll see you at the office at 10. I was on this long commute. And then we got to be like, I was like 5 or 10 minutes from the office. And I realized that I hadn't put on deodorant that morning because of course, like I was so anxious. I was so worried about everything that I forgot to do that. So then I was like, okay, I'll see you in like 28 minutes. Cause then I had to like do Yelp and Google Maps. And I found the CVS that was like 10-minute walk in the wrong direction, came to the office breathlessly, like half an hour late because I had to buy deodorant and then apply it, like tucking myself, like on a street corner, like into, I don't know, like some store, like just kind of hiding and, maneuvering it. And so that's my awkward moment of the day. So if you ever want a whole season full of those stories, like I'm your guy.
I mean, I think that's the spinoff, right? That's the spinoff, right? We could actually get both you and Victoria in a room and I could just moderate. That's what I would do, right?
The business of awkwardness, the awkwardness of humans. We'll figure it out.
The awkward business of humans.
The awkward, oh my gosh. This is why you do what you do. This is why you're you. So what's in your mind today?
So I was going to tell you about this nightmare situation that I was like, of course this happened the night before you and I record. Like, of course.
Of course. Happens. Great.
So I have got a dear friend who I met through all of my social media adventures, right? Like we connected over Instagram and now we're friends. And she lives in Japan, and she's coming in to the States for the Super Bowl,
Wow.
like you do. And she booked a flight. So she's like high status with Alaska Airlines. And
Nice.
she had to book a flight with their partner, um, Japan Airlines. Right. And
Okay.
I am calling out Japan Airlines in this because this was I am shots fired on Japan Airlines.
This is
Yeah.
going to be one of those like
This is bad.
hashtag Japan or hashtag bad service like that. Because I don't know how to do that.
Flabbergasted. I
Okay.
was flabbergasted. Well, I mean, they'll tell you that hashtags don't matter, but they are fun to say in conversation. So they matter for context.
That's how I use them.
But anyway, so she was doing some engineering work for me last night, and she was on a call with Japan Airlines for 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
For 2
That
hours.
is a whole chunk of life right there.
Yeah. Trying to get a seat assignment and trying to get, because she had a specialized meal. So she had to get her specialized meal and her seat assignment. And they were literally refusing to give her a seat assignment or a special meal, right? And she's like, no, she's like, I know you can do it because we do this every time. So she flies them fairly regularly. She likes their seat configuration. She's also, because of where she lives in Japan, she's limited on airline choices. And again, like when you have the golden handcuffs, when it comes to like, you've picked your airline, you really do have golden handcuffs, because it's like, well, I get status. And when you have status, you get certain privileges and you get whatever, right? They were literally refusing to do this thing. And then finally she gets this agent. And I felt badly for the agent, because I have a feeling that there's probably a policy, because she booked the ticket through Alaska on a partner. And so she called, and this is the classic conundrum, I think, in CX of like, you have partnership deals, right? And Alaska cannot give her a seat assignment and select the meal for her, because it's not their aircraft, it's not their airline. They brokered the deal, essentially. They brokered the deal. So it's then Japan Airlines' responsibility to do these things. But then Japan Airlines is like, well, you didn't book it through us, you booked it through Alaska, so you have to call them. And she's like, no, because they have no control. They can't give me a seat assignment. They can't do these things because it's not their airline. Like, it's not their airplane, right? And it was going back and forth, and just watching her go back and forth, this painful experience. She finally gets the agent to do the thing on the outbound. So she now has a seat. She now has a meal. And then they refuse to do it for the return flight home.
Oh no. That's like the hellish plot twist at the end that nobody saw coming. No.
And they're like, well, you have to do it at the airport. And she's like, the specialty meal takes 48 hours, because it is specialty meal. It's not something they just have on hand. It's something that they have to plan and prepare for. So it's on the plane.
Yeah. So it's like 100% not going to work. The recommendation she's getting.
Yes. And the fact that she's got like the highest tier status with, even though it's a partner airline, and the partner airlines honor those status, she's got the highest tier status. She's like, I don't want to show up to the airport, have to fly 16 hours in the middle when I am preparing ahead of time, when I'm contacting you ahead of time, and I'm doing these things. And she lives on an island. And so it actually takes her several hours just to get to the airport. So it's not like she can just buzz over to the airport and work it out with whatever agent at the counter. Like, she has to call. And she's like, I do this every 6 to 8 weeks, because she flies so frequently. She's like, I know you can do it. Like, I know. This agent would not escalate her. So she asked several times to be escalated. And the agent was like, why do you need to be escalated? She's like, somebody's got to help me. And I like, you literally just did the thing. And then the agent pretended to not hear her.
No.
The agent went on mute, which, for anybody who knows me, because I am the worst customer, never ever put me on mute. Do not put me on mute. That is an unacceptable button to use. The only time you use mute is if you're sneezing or coughing, right? You don't use mute, because it sounds like the call dropped. So I do not accept mute. Put her on mute so she would think that they had been disconnected or whatever.
Oh my
Pretended
gosh.
not to hear her. Tried to get a translator on the line so she didn't have to deal with her any longer. And this person, my friend, was being very direct, but she didn't raise her voice. She wasn't yelling and screaming, but she knows exactly, like, she's like, I do this every 6 to 8 weeks. Like, I know you can do this because, and you literally just did this for me. So anyway, the agent ended up hanging up on her.
Wow. This is wild too, because as you went through this story, I was thinking this is kind of growing into a laundry list of things that went wrong with the customer experience. I was also thinking, look at us go. We're actually talking about CX a little bit, which is kind of the space we came from. We don't talk about a lot on this podcast, which I think is fine, but it's okay to talk about a little bit. And it was like a laundry list of things going wrong. And what was interesting to me, one of the plot twists was I started out thinking of all the things that were going wrong from a leadership standpoint and how leaders, like we are / used to be, have to equip their agents with the right tools. You have to equip them with the right to actually think on their feet and make decisions and take actions without putting on hold a million times. And you have to equip with the right tools. This partnership issue where as a consumer, you're like, oh, this is being offered to me. Great. I will take part in this like easier booking or take advantage of this partnership. Then you have agents who aren't actually able to solve the problem. But then one of the plot twists was it actually sounds, I never like to blame it on the frontline associate, but it actually sounds like in this case, there was a lot that went wrong from that standpoint as well, including this sort of pride thing of like, why should I have to escalate you? Just talk to me. And that's not, you never want to get into this pride sort of thing. If you literally can't click on the thing or do the thing for the customer, get somebody who can solve the problem.
Or hire you to come in and fix all of the things that are broken, right?
Oh,
or
thank you,
like at
Lynda.
least advise.
That was a great plug.
Yeah, well, at least figure out how to advise on this is how we solve the problem, right? This is how we empower our agents. And I know both you and I in, previous spots, and, I've shifted away a little bit from this, but I shifted away from this, but I do still occasionally take private clients where I'm like, your system's broken. I will fix it. Right.
Uh-huh.
But I think that that's like those moments where I always, when I would get an escalation from an agent, I would always tell the customer, I'm like, I just want you to know that I can't do anything they couldn't do. Like,
Interesting.
you escalated beyond them, and that's fine. Like, you wanted a new voice. You wanted to talk to like the most powerful voice in the room, I suppose. But I need you to understand that they could have done this and they would have done it faster than me.
Wow.
Like the thing that and I always tried to back up my agents in that respect,
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, hey, I know you asked for a manager. This is going to take a lot longer. Or when I was a director, I was like, okay, I know that, you're now speaking to the director, and totally fine. Like, I'm happy to help you. I just want you to know I'm a lot slower than my agents.
This is also partially just because you're a hilarious human. I would think to myself, or it's definitely part of the industry chatter of like escalation psychology and this whole dynamic of, I was a frontlines associate in the beginning of my career. Then I'm in the leadership roles. And so then I could jump on and say like, hi, this is Joe, the director, VP of blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly like the tone changes, the customer's super respectful. And to your point, I could offer the same solution. It's like, thank you. Well, thank you for it. And that's like, there's some escalation psychology happening there. But I would just think about it and maybe talk to people after. Whereas this is very classic for your style. You're like, let me break down for you right now what's happening, sir. I'm just doing the same thing that she could have done, but you just wanted to speak. Okay, got it. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important that people knew that. And I also really felt, when it came to my team, because I think that there's like so much sensitivity. This is so off topic about what we're going to talk about today, but I do think it's important to talk about. There's so much sensitivity about making a mistake at work, or like, oh my word, am I going to get in trouble for an escalation? I'm like, probably not. Like, sometimes people just want to escalate. Sometimes that's just, they feel like they're due more attention, or they're due something else sometimes. But as long as it was an escalation that you couldn't avoid, in the sense of like, I could always tell when somebody was trying to escalate. They'd be like, well, I've done the best I can do. I'm like, don't come at me with that.
Don't
Like,
you do that.
Like, I know you're trying to escalate this customer, right? You're trying to get them off the line because you don't want to deal with them. Those are the people who I'm like, let's have a conversation.
Right.
But I felt like it was really important to back up my team and be like, hey, customer, like, It's totally fine that you're talking to me. I just need you to know that I'm slower. I know less. I don't do this every day. And you could have been done 20 minutes ago
Right.
if you just would have let this person help.
Yeah, that's a great point too. I've definitely jumped, especially as my career went on, I would jump on an escalation call and then I'd be slacking with the person who transferred the call to me, asking them to like pretty please help to solve the issue. And
Yeah.
it's just an ironic situation where the customer's like, now I'm speaking to the person with real power and I'm slacking the person on my team. Like, how do I reschedule the shipment again to, and how do we like, they want a different local carrier. And the person's like, okay, yeah, no, I could have just worked this all out with them directly, but I guess we'll just do it by Slack now with my boss's boss involved. Like, this is weird. The other thing that I thought about that's really interesting that's happened across career that I don't know, I think is fairly interesting, hopefully for people to know about, is that a lot of times brands want to elevate their VIP and loyal customers, like top spend, most number of years. I mean, Amex famously does as well, where it's like, you've been a member with us, for this, and thank you so much. And I think they kind of write the book on some of this stuff. And then other brands want to have those kind of bespoke, like elevated experiences. And sometimes it goes backwards. And to me, that's like kind of what happened to your friend here. I mean, it sounds like she's exactly the kind of traveler that these airlines should be like putting up and giving the VIP treatment to. For any host of reasons, the opposite could happen sometimes. And I was thinking about one of my first career stops, First Dibs, which is still, you could go to the website. It's like an incredibly luxury website, really interesting business. So if you ever want to buy like a mirror for $60,000 or a handbag for 400,000, like First Dibs is your place as everyone rushes to the site. And we had this differentiation between marketplace support, which was like the more common, using air quotes, support team were amazing, incredible. And then you had private client services, which was more elevated. So folks customers who'd spent a ton of money. Private clients support was supposed to get better bespoke service, right? The problem is that you call the private client services number, there's a smaller team staffing it, more limited hours. And we had a much higher rate of customers getting stranded, like not reaching a live person. And I'd get pressure from above. They're like, yeah, but don't let marketplace support touch that customer. They might foul it up. Meanwhile, people are calling in and spending a much lower amount. They get an amazing, friendly person on the phone immediately and leave thrilled like 5 minutes later. Private clients is like calling people over the weekend to catch up on queues. It's something brands really actually have to be very careful about. It happens more commonly than it should.
And you can solve that.
Call CX Joe, 1-800-CX Joe. That won't actually work. So, but thank you, Lynda. That's very kind.
Too short. It's not enough numbers. We've got to work on that. We've got to work on that pitch.
For ease.
Yeah. Well, and we definitely don't want to add more X's because then it gets weird.
Oh, so, Lynda.
Speaking of,
so on that note, speaking of awkward transitions.
Yeah, let's. So Joe, do you remember how we first met? Did you see how I did that? Like that was just like hard.
Oh my God, I wasn't prepared for this.
In Jersey, it wouldn't be allowed because that was a serious left turn. But do you remember how we first met?
Okay, like this could mean so many different things. I mean, clearly we worked together in this great partnership at Daily Harvest running the customer care team. I do remember when I was first kind of connected to you online, there were LinkedIn messages sent. I was like frantically trying to get you on a call or to figure out when we could meet in person. You had a family vacation coming up. You were like totally like over it already.
Which is so funny like, because it was very classic me. Like it really.
Yeah, you were like, I'll get to you when I get to you. And I was like, let's meet in 5 minutes. Okay, but what did you actually mean? What are you talking about?
No, we met.
Oh, I do remember now. I totally forgot. We met at the conference, the Maestro QA conference in Brooklyn. And you and Shelton came up to me. We met networking. I had spoken on a little panel there.
Yes.
And I felt very fancy then, as I do now, recalling that. Yes. And then we met at the happy hour after, just schmoozing it up.
Well, we were networking.
Did
you see how I like really tried to work networking in? Like, I
know.
That's our topic today.
I know, and you really teed me up there for the volleyball spike for the alley-oop dunk. But you have to warn me when you're doing these things. I don't. Everything goes right above my head. Well, we are talking about networking today.
We are talking about networking, and
believe it or not,
from the first. It's really interesting because that's how we first met.
Yes, that's true. That is true. I remember, and this is still, I'm still not taking the setup. I remember when we met networking, and I remember you just didn't seem very impressed at all. I just remember you being like, this guy, and that carried forward to then when I was trying to meet with you a second time because we were, I was going to be your manager and all, and you were just like, yeah, still over it.
Yeah, that could be my overall demeanor. Like it might just be like I don't think it had anything to do with you. Like I think it just might be my overall. Well, and I will tell you. So interestingly enough, like we met at this networking event.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really struggle and this is why I think we're such a good duo because I really struggle with networking. And I think it's because which is so interesting because I actually think I'm a fairly warm person, and just maybe not when you first look at me. But like
You definitely are.
I genuinely enjoy like connecting with people and having conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle with superficial
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
conversation. Well,
That
I
tracks.
struggle with super at the beginning. We could talk
Mm-hmm.
about like superficial things forever, but
Mm-hmm.
like the platitudes, that's
Yeah.
what it is. I struggle with the initial platitudes of like I, I'm like a good solid third impression person. I am
Mm-hmm.
not a great first impression.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because like I struggle so much like with anything that doesn't feel real. Like if it
Yeah.
feels really forced or false, like I struggle
Yeah.
with that. Um, and so I really struggle with networking. And I think something I've always appreciated about you is you don't struggle with networking, right? Uh, and I think that there's probably a lot of people out there who are
Mm-hmm.
like me
Mm-hmm.
that struggle. So I think this is such a great topic to talk about the importance of networking, but kind of the ins and outs. And I mean, I hope we get into a little bit of the cringe factor too.
Sure. Well, we always do, don't we? We'll have to get back to cringe factor. No, Lynda, I really appreciate that. And I guess I want to start out by saying I think that language is important here, or at least I found it to be important. What I mean by that is I, like a lot of people, spent years hearing the term networking and thinking that it was cringy, it felt superficial. I think I also felt like it was something that I didn't do or wouldn't be good at. I don't know. I probably just pictured like marketing or sales leaders like being super schmoozy and like they network, I don't network. And then across career, I kind of came, I had to face the reality, and probably based on, people's feedback or just having enough conversations, they're like, no, dude, you clearly love it and you seem to be pretty good at it and like have all these great things happen in career and life kind of through networking. So I guess my little epiphany, I'm going to talk about my dad for a moment. So my dad passed a while ago, and I miss him every day and everything. But where I was really, really lucky is I had one of those dads who he would drop a lot of pearls of wisdom that I remember for in childhood. I was the youngest of five, and he would say things where we'd be like, "Dad, like you're so corny, like not this again," and just of course now that I'm a old man, now that I'm a grown up with kids, just yeah. So I think back all the time. I'm like, dad again with that nugget of wisdom. But one of the things he would kind of teach me growing up, he was a journalist, a consumer affairs journalist for like 35 years. And so it's interesting that there's these parallels across industries. But his big lesson, kind of like career life overlapping lesson, was around connections. So he'd always say to us, like, look to form connections with people. And then I try to think about like what he would say next, and this is where it overlaps, or I'll kind of take over the voice. But I think like what I'd really encourage people to do is one, think about networking not just as this like buzzword networking. Think about it as creating and then nurturing and deepening connections with
Mm-hmm.
people, with human beings. And if you think of it that way, like that's the pursuit. And I guess that's what I kind of gravitated towards. And I always got sort of unnaturally excited about opportunities to do that. Yes, there's like the anxiety or the awkwardness, but when you actually start to connect with somebody and form some bonds, like even from the first connection, the first conversation or whatever, that did always excite me. And then the idea of nurturing those relationships, deepening those relationships, excited me. And back to where I think again, I'm like, why was dad advising to do that? Well, this is the other thing I'd really encourage our listeners to just lean into and really embrace is you think about deepening these connections and networking, and you could think about it as, is this more for kind of the pleasure and the joy of it, the fulfillment, also uplifting other people's days, or is this about helping yourself? And what I would really encourage people to lean into is the answer to that is yes. It's one of those like, is it this or this questions? The obvious answer is like a resounding yes. It's both of those, and just lean into that. And Lynda, it kind of reminds me, I don't know if, I can't remember if you've ever said this to teams I've like coached, like associates or team leads, whoever, talking about just providing great customer service. And it's this really corny win-win, because I'll tell them like, well, first of all, it's way more fun to just provide great service and like make someone else's day. And second of all, it's also going to help you out. I mean, that's how you get top scores and promotions and all of that. So like, what's the alternative? Providing bad service and getting bad scores. I think about connections and networking kind of the same way. Like, it's a way more fun, fulfilling. I think it drives a lot of optimism and joy in my life that I just always look to deepen these connections and kind of uplift others. And then I also am eyes wide open and celebrate the fact it's totally selfishly beneficial as well, because those same people a day, a week, or 7 years later, do something to uplift me, and in some cases completely change my life and career, based on that goodwill that we had built up months or years back.
Yeah, I love that. I actually thought you were going to reference another one of our friends, Mike Glenn.
Mike Glenn, shout out.
He still needs to listen to an episode. I'm shaming him publicly.
Yeah, I would. I don't know if I'll ever. We'll have to just isolate this 1 minute of the podcast and send it to him. See if he'll listen to it while eating a meat stick, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm not going to provide any context.
Again, that could have gone sideways.
Just call 1-800-CXS Joe. Okay, let's stop right there.
But I thought you were going to reference, because he always talked about the win-win-win. And so I thought for sure.
I know.
Do you remember?
It's another one. It's so corny, but I do. The win-win-win was kind of like part of the premise of starting my whole CX Show advisory, which Mike is also another figure in my life, like you, Lynda, where I think about the win-win-win, or something that you said like 2 years ago, and then it proves helpful and wise. And I'm just so bitter about it for some reason. I'm like, damn it. Lynda was right again. Mike was right again.
Well, I told you, like, so many people in that I've managed or worked with, right, will reach out randomly and be like, "Damn you, Lynda!" Like,
that is one of your. That's one of your specials. Yes.
They will say like, "The other day I was saying something. I told somebody to keep their backyard clean. God damn it, Lynda!" Like, they.
Yeah.
Or I can't tell you how many people that I speak to that'll be like, all the things. And they're like, "Lynda, you say that a lot." And I'm like, "I'm sorry."
Yeah.
I'm not sorry. But anyway, so I thought for sure we were referencing him. But moving on. So I think that the important thing when we talk about networking and forming those connections, and again, something that you do so much better than me, right? And it's really kind of fleshed itself out, right? Like, so yes, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, I'm on YouTube. I almost hit 1,000 people. I'm hitting 1,000 people, subscribers on YouTube today, which is a big
amazing
deal.
Congrats.
I'm very excited about that.
No, it'll be 100,000 next.
I have almost 500,000 on Instagram, but I'm like so jazzed about my almost 1,000 on YouTube. But
casual anyway, numbers drops. Love it.
Like you do.
Just, oh, by the way.
But the thing that's really interesting about all of that, right? Like, I'm not dropping that in to just be like, I'm so cool, even though I am. It's more about the fact that I post on LinkedIn, right? And again, I have a really, for the time that I've been on social media and for the stuff that I talk about, right?
Yeah.
I have a sizable audience. And I post something on LinkedIn and it gets like 2 likes. Maybe a comment, right? You post something on LinkedIn and it like blows up. And I think that that's really a testament to the work that you've done, the groundwork and the connections that you've built. And that's why I'm like, Joe, have you posted on LinkedIn yet? Because mine's getting 0 traction. And like, you post it and it's this casual drop. And like, every person who I also know comments on yours and like forgets about me. And I'm like, jerks, but it's fine, right? Because you've clearly created these connections and really built that. And so I feel like you are obviously the resident expert in this category. So I want to talk about, a few things that you do to really kind of what has helped. Like, first of all, how do you start doing it? Because I think starting, like I said, here's a Lyndaism for you today. I said to a client the other day, I said, you start small or you don't start at all.
Yeah.
Because we also have to rhyme. Like, it seems like such a daunting task. Like when you say, okay, it's time to network. And I think especially there are people who are out there who are looking for work. And I just saw a statistic today that said 80% of hires, like 80% of hires are actually through networking.
100%.
So
you could have even said a higher number and it wouldn't have surprised me. Yeah. Okay. Well, first off, thank you for that. It's very kind. LinkedIn has definitely been, I feel like it's my jam. It's a very comfortable space for me. And I've had friends make fun of me about this, but I will grab my phone and like check out LinkedIn the fourth time that day instead of like TikTok or Instagram. And I don't know why I'm such a nerd. Then I'll be like, oh, this person I met 3 years ago got a promotion. I'm like, whoa, it really fires me up. I know, it's so strange. The other thing I'll say is that I definitely cannot the inverse or reciprocation of I don't have like 100,000 people following me like you do. But what I would say, what I do have a lot of pride in my network, or if I post something on LinkedIn, a couple hundred people react to it, I could go through the list of reactions and I do feel like there's a lot of depth in that network. And so that I think is something I have a lot of pride in. And I feel, I guess, does position me maybe to be a little bit of an expert. Of course, there's people on LinkedIn with, multitudes, kind of bigger followings than I have. But I will say that I've cultivated a career network where there's a lot of depth there. There are a lot of people who I think would do a lot to help me out. And because they know that I would do a hell of a lot to help them out. Once you're kind of in my community or one of my people, and I will do a lot to help you out. And so we could speak more on that. And I guess that gets to nurturing the connections once they've occurred. But there's also like how to get started, which I understand is the most daunting part for a lot of people. I'll tell a quick career story. And I think that the reason I remember it so fondly, or the reason it was important in my life and career, is because it was like starting the progression of what I think of as getting over myself, which is, now we're here and like my whole advisory is kind of like this experiment in my life and career to see if like my whole job could kind of be connections and helping people out and facilitating and all of that, which has been a fun, interesting experiment. It's also this journey of being much further on the path now of getting over myself, or another way of saying it is like, how many F's do you give? But not in the way that I'm on this journey of like, I want to care less, but more in terms of, again, as somebody who could be an overthinker or very self-conscious and thinking like, what right do I have? Or another thing that I used to feel is I would be terrified of sort of rejection. So I'll bring it back to like the tactical LinkedIn now, because in my opinion, that's what's driving a lot of the I don't know where to get started. Is like, maybe you kind of do, but you're worried about feeling embarrassed or failing. So something that I did I was really proud of is I went to this conference. It was another one in New York, not that one. I went to a conference and one thing I did is like when people would give a great talk and I would just be in the audience listening, because I was a much younger like CX leader than some of the people giving talks. I did push myself in person. For some reason, I felt less awkward going up and I like giving compliments. I like asking questions, right? So that's something that I was comfortable to do in person. So I'd wait in line, I would chat with them, I'd say, hey, I'd really enjoy your talk. Maybe I'd say something I enjoyed about it, ask a question or two. That was super successful. I kept doing that. I'll give a shout out to Lisa Oswald, one of the like OGs, just incredible leaders in our space. We had lunch together in person a few weeks ago, and our whole relationship started from that moment, like 10 or so years ago, where I just complimented her after a talk she gave, and we exchanged, information. And we were just like, that's what I'm saying, is we would do anything for each other. Now we're in each other's community. So I started it by going up and just asking a question, paying a compliment, introducing myself. But another thing I did that was kind of funny was, because the peer networking, I too could be, I don't know, was a little bit intimidated. I didn't always know how to find the right person, but they gave a sheet at that conference and they said, here are all the expected attendees. So I took that sheet home, and then on a Saturday morning, I was like sipping coffee and I just sent out maybe like 20 or 30 LinkedIn messages. And I would say like, oh, I missed you at the conference or blah, blah, blah. But they were just people, brand names. I'd check them out on LinkedIn, or this person looks interesting. And I would just send them a note, and I would personalize each one, say something about either their brand or their profile that I was genuinely impressed by, so it wasn't phony. And I would just take a sentence or two. I'm Joe. I lead CX at this company. You seem really interesting. I'm sorry I missed you at the conference. Would you ever be up for like connecting or grabbing a coffee or something? There were connections that came from that set of outreaches that were wild in my career. People who helped me out so much, a wedding that I attended. I mean, all sorts of crazy stories like came from literally sending out those random messages. And I think another important part to emphasize is that if I sent out, I don't know, 25, those amazing connections and friendships and wild stories came from like the 8 or so people who responded. So also think about 17 people didn't respond. Or maybe in other cases, the numbers are worse. So I did this other weekends when I didn't even have a conference to lean on. I will sit there on a weekend, and even as I kind of rose the ranks, so to speak, or I was like, a department head, but there's almost an infinite number of people to connect with and learn things from. So I'd sit there like a nerd on a weekend day, take like an hour, but I loved it. It was so much fun. And I'd find like 30 more people whose profiles or mutual connections. I'm like, wow, I would love to be friends with you, essentially. And do you know what, Lynda? Most of them wouldn't respond or want to be my friend. But again, I was on this journey of I don't care. Like you have to get over yourself. It's really not that important. It literally doesn't matter in the scope of the world or even your life. So, just ask to be friends with people. And last point on my rant is like, this also applies a little bit getting into the nurturing the relationships. So now you have this growing network of people. I send out notes to people regularly if I thought of them and smiled. I remember something they did or a shared connection we had or something cool with their brand, or I saw them post something that I thought was really admirable. I'll not only like emoji it, I might just send them a note and say, I thought of you for this reason, or when you posted that thing the other day, it was really inspiring. That was cool of you. I try to send unprompted positive notes to people when I don't need anything from them. And again, sometimes people write back right away and it's like this incredible moment and they're like, oh, and I could help you. I'm like, oh my God, it's all playing out. Other times they don't write anything back, and that's fine. I don't care. And but maybe they still saw it, and maybe it still kind of made their day and is something I could, follow up on in the future.
Yeah. Well, and can we talk about like, so in this idea of nurturing relationships and building these relationships. So Joe, I don't know, I'm sure you remember this because I remember it and I was blown away. But through one of the connections, I actually think it was from the conference you and I were met at. Wasn't it Laura from Peloton that you like connected with, right? I think you guys, were you on the same panel, if I recall?
We were on a panel together either that time or a time around there. And she was literally one of the people I sent that random like, hi, I'm Joe, do you want to be friends message to?
Well, do you want to tell the people like the opportunity that COVID ruined for you with Laura? But it was all because of this nurturing relationship.
Yes.
And it's like we say like, yeah, it can help you in your career, but there was this really cool experience that you were going to get to have that COVID ruined for you.
Yes.
You want to tell the people what that
sure,
is?
Sure. I'm happy to. I always hope that Laura, won't mind me retelling the story. But no, it's just a situation where we got to be friends just as sort of curious, friendly humans, right? Like just wanting to chat and get to know each other. It ended up that Laura was able to invite me to cool things to do, such as what Lynda's alluding to, is invite me to join her on a private jet to go to another conference that year. And we were going to have this great experience, and we had a lot of fun kind of, anticipating it and building up to it. She was going to, and I know how this feels too. I don't have any access to private jets, unfortunately, through a particular circumstance. She did. But I also know what it feels like when you're just able to hook up another person who's, grateful and kind of curious and friendly. And so she was kind of, I think, having a blast with it too. I was certainly, really anticipating it. And we had a blast kind of leading up to it. Literally the timing of COVID, the conference was canceled. The experience was taken from me by a matter of days. But again, what was interesting after that is that our relationship deepened, because then, and so again, that could have been like this awkward or letdown moment, but I think we did a good job of leaning into it. We're like, oh no, we missed out. But then that became the jump off point of more joking and saying, well, then we, have to plan out something else instead. And so then the next thing was like, instead of going on this career journey and adventure together, why don't we actually invite our significant others and have a dinner out in Manhattan, for example? So we did that. We had a blast. And then it led to all these other great outings over the years. And maybe attending her wedding, which was a blast. But it all started with this random LinkedIn note. So that's pretty wild. So that could totally happen. And I think just, again, lead with humility and lead with sincerity.
Yeah. And then maybe you too.
Maybe you too.
On the private jet.
Maybe you too. But there are so many there's so many examples of that may or may not involve a private jet, but just establishing that initial relationship with somebody, and then you just never know. Like it's truly been one of the joys of my career, just seeing all the ways that these sort of connections and mutual favors could manifest. And another thing I guess I want to emphasize to everybody is that to me is core. So like when people talk about networking, right? And then I said that I translate that into connections. I could also like allude to the beginning of our podcast where we promised that we're going to talk about not just successes, but failures. I guess like one of my little talking points here that I'm very passionate about is to really, really lean into moments of setbacks and failure or embarrassment as potential, relationship deepeners or opportunities, right? That sounds incredibly corny. But like a couple of examples of that from my career. One story I've probably told you before, Lynda, but I actually applied for a job and got really excited, went through all the interviews, thought I did great. And then I didn't get the offer. This was early in my career when I was at this startup called Zerv. I finally was ready to leave. I was like 8-9 years in, got really excited. And then it all, came apart. I didn't get the offer and I was crushed and I was embarrassed. But the thing I did that I was proud of is I reached out to the hiring manager at that other company with whom I'd become pretty close. And I just reached out to her and I was kind of holding my head high and I just wanted to thank her for an amazing experience through the interview process. I learned so much. I hope we could stay connected after this. And basically was saying to her, like, I'm sorry it didn't work out for both of us, but it was a great experience and I deeply thank you. And she was so impressed with the way that I bounced back and carried myself. She was like, I'm kind of pissed that we didn't make the offer to you too, let alone like you must be fuming, but here you are coming to me and thanking me. And so then it was her recommendation that led to the actual next job I had in my career. And after that, a lot of things started to just catch with momentum in my career journey. But I don't know if it would have without her hooking me up with my next job. And she was, again, the hiring manager who it didn't work out with her, but she led to the next job. Yeah. So, I mean, that's one story. And then when we both had our, endings at Daily Harvest in different circumstances. But when I left Daily Harvest, it was another just kind of bit of a down moment for me in my career. I was thinking like, this could be it. This could be like the 10-year home and, everything's going to be great after this. And then I was figuring out what to do next. And my next career stop was Sundays for Dogs. And the reason that came about was because the founder of Sundays for Dogs was sitting at dinner apparently with his like extended family one night. And he was just talking about business. And he was like, I think we're up to our first senior CX hire. And his younger brother was a product manager at SeatGeek in the time that I was the head of CX at SeatGeek. And again, it was one of those relationships where we just always had this common bond. We just treated each other nicely and with warmth and respect. And there was just a feeling that we would want to help each other out. And so years later, he's sitting at the dinner table. His older brother says that, and he's like, pounds on the table, like, I have somebody you need to speak with. And it led to this warm LinkedIn intro, obviously. And we were off to the races, and that was my next job. And that's basically how a lot of those moments have occurred in my career. I know that you are giving me all the credit, Lynda, and being very kind, but have you had moments like that too in your career where it's kind of like that old connection, helping out and resurfacing?
So I've had moments in time where they are old connections, but they're not from relationships that I nurtured through, networking or whatnot. It's usually somebody that I've worked with similar to you, like where I worked with them, and often like where I started out again, third impression. like I think both of us know Vicus, right? We both know
Yes.
Vicus.
Yes, you did a great job networking with Vicus. See, that's a good example.
Man. But the first meeting that I had with Vicus, that poor man, like the fact that he continues to like speak to me is a bit of a miracle, because it was a very genuine me moment, right? Where we we were doing business. Our business was doing business with his business.
Yeah, he was a customer. They're a great company. We can mention them. Customer with a K.
Customer's a great customer.
Yeah.
Customer's a great customer. Customer's a great business. But we had gone to their very first
yes.
networking
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I ended up sharing a very candid Lynda opinion.
Yes.
And they were like, we don't know how to handle you. We need to bring in somebody who
because they offered the ability for clients or customers who are at their own conference to sign up for slots to talk to leadership. Yeah. And I remember we tag teamed because I spoke to Brad, who's also amazing. He's still the CEO of Customer. You spoke to Vikas, who's been off to incredible things in his career. Yes. We kind of divided and conquered and then met back up. And you're like, I really gave it to that guy.
I'm like, we're going to get kicked out of this conference. Yeah. We've got to go. Yeah. I was like,
unrun.
Yeah. And it was this, I had just been very, very candid. And the interesting thing was it started out as like, okay, we've got to figure out how to handle her because she is a wild card, right? And so anytime that there was some kind of big meeting that I was going to be part of with customer, like Vikas was brought in, I'm sure to just be like, Lynda, calm down. I need you to like, you're at an 11. I need you to be at like a 7 for me, right? But we ended up like cultivating this great professional relationship. And I spoke on his, he did an event about a year ago and he was like, Lynda, you absolutely have to be on this event. You know, I have supported him on his journey. He supported me on my journey. And it's been this really kind of great relationship. I also think about like my relationship with you, right? Like how often do you go in, and our start was interesting to put it lightly, right? It was a very tumultuous time.
Dodging me on that meeting I want to have to get to know you. Yeah. Sure.
I'm really good. I'm really good at that in general. I just am really good at dodging. Yeah. Less at dodgeball though, interestingly enough, but
interestingly enough,
that's a story.
By the by, while we're on that topic.
By the by. Yeah. So, but the thing is like, it's so important. You just don't know when you're going to pop up in somebody's existence again. Right. And just being cognizant of that and saying like, you know, I think it's so easy in cancel culture specifically, where we're just like, I'm going to write somebody off. I'm going to do the things, right? But taking a minute and saying like, again, what's in it for me and what's in it for them? And I can't tell you how many times that I have been able to connect people that I've worked with others, and they've gone on to do really amazing things, or times that I have been down and I needed help and support from a professional network, right? And so I think it's just, you know, whether it's relationship building, networking, like whatever, it's about trying to find a way to do the things. And I think that there's also this important piece of trying to find it in a genuine way to yourself, right? It's not about being phony. So if you don't feel comfortable going out and sending 20 messages on LinkedIn, which is still a good idea because there's very, very little risk there. There's very little risk in doing something like that. Or go find, if you live in, you know, there are network events. I mean, I live in a small city, but there are networking events everywhere, all of the time. And taking a minute, I mean, I have another really good friend who has, she calls it the LinkedIn lunch group. And it's literally just for networking. And once a month, people go and have lunch at a local restaurant. So we get to go support local commerce and we get to eat, which we're all fans of most of the time. And then we get to make new connections. In fact, I went to it last week and I talked to somebody who might be interested in producing our podcast. And
amazing.
I know.
Right? Great update. I'm glad we got to it. Tell me more.
So it's like these little things, and it doesn't have to be weird. And, and then I think there's also this understanding that if you are going to a networking event, everybody there has the exact same agenda. Like and so I think it's kind of like going to speed dating, right? Like if you're going to a speed dating event, you're not going because you don't want to date somebody. You're going because you're hoping to find that connection, right?
Right.
So allowing it to just be what it is and saying, yes, this is a networking event. We are all here to hopefully figure out a way to help one another, right?
Right.
And help ourselves. And so it's just, again, if you don't start small, you don't start at all. So like do some LinkedIn updates, go to a networking event. If you live in Utah, connect with me on LinkedIn and you can come into the LinkedIn lunches that we
Mm-hmm.
have in between, Utah County and Draper, and do the things. But you never know who you're going to meet. You never know the impact that you're going to make.
Right.
Um, but also you don't know the impact those people are going to make for you.
That's the thing. Yeah. You never know how that's going to play out. And by the way, we were talking about this the other day of like how to even know when, events are happening in real life in your city. But again, I think part of it is putting yourself out there a little bit. So just asking around and forming connections. There's also great Slack communities. Elevate CX is one, for example, in the CX space, but there's lots. They could be geo-based or industry-based, but Slack communities where they'll also help to connect you with in real life events. And to your point, people are coming to events like that. They have similar goals. And also keep in mind that they also probably similar to you are a mix of excited and anxious. Again, this is just something, lean into that. Don't think you're the only one. Probably everyone's experiencing that. And it's probably going to go great. But the story that you told for me had so many nuggets. I did my thing where I had to like take little quick notes. But like one thing that I think is great about you led with honesty with Ficus. And so in this scenario where they wanted feedback from customers, and then, we joke about it of like both of us, but especially you, like lit into him and shared all this like vicious feedback. But we also are kind of aware that, of course, they really appreciated it because they actually wanted dialogue, which is to their credit that they welcomed it. But I think it's really applicable to networking and just a lot of stuff in careers. Like, come in and lead with honesty and sincerity and actual verbal communication. Don't keep thoughts to yourself or make it like snarky internal thoughts. Share your feedback, do it directly, respectfully, calmly. People really appreciate that. And here you're probably going to have this career, lifelong kind of connection. Somebody with whom you're in each other's corners, offer each other cool kind of, opportunities or experiences, or I'm sure you do favors and references for each other. And all shared, it all started because you just led, I think, with sincerity and like talking to the guy, which is great.
Yeah. And I needed to be handled. The people in the room were like, we don't know what to do with you. We're going to bring somebody else in.
Well, you're very good at handling others. So in this case, you were being handled.
I was being handled.
Yes. And also you mentioned something, Lynda, about you've also made really helpful connections for other people. And that's definitely something that I've taken pride in over the years. It made me think about writing references or LinkedIn recommendations, or providing that email address and phone number to be a job reference. And I think it's something that both of us take a lot of pride in. And it reminded me of like another one of my little talking points is we talk in the customer service space about SLAs. For those not in the know, it's service level agreement, but it's kind of just a way of alluding to like the speed of getting back to customers and maintaining that commitment to fast replies to customers. I've basically become passionate in my career about the SLA, like the speed, the service level agreement that I'll have with people who need some kind of help from me, who need that I mean, people ask me for a reference. I'm trying to get back to them like within 60 seconds of seeing the request because it could be really time sensitive. LinkedIn recommendation, I'm going to do it. That one is slightly less urgent. Somebody had to ping me the other day with a slight, little reminder. I was like, damn it though. I was like, I failed my SLA. They're like, you're good. It's only been a day or two. Right. But I drive myself to really high standards on that because again, it's like that win-win of it feels really good to help other people. Maybe that person's been on my team in my career, which I feel like anyone on a team of mine in my career owe like a lifetime of gratitude, or maybe not, maybe it's some other connection, but if you could help that person out, it feels great. And then you're basically building up all this capital in a sense, just sound a little more strategic about it. Again, both are true. You're building up a lot of capital with your network, and you don't know in the future when you might, need to cash in on some of that capital. And it could be, it's not always your boss or even your peer. It could be someone I always think like the brilliant people I've managed in my career, I mean, you're one of them, Lynda, but even, folks who we were kind of always felt like peers, but even people who were, way younger, less experienced than me, I'm going, you might be my boss 5 years from now, right? Yeah. Like no BS. I mean, you're brilliant. You just never know the twists and turns that career takes. So really try to help other people out and drive yourself to that SLA, I think is another thing I'd want to emphasize.
Amazing.
Yeah. And just like career is long. I think another thing, And you usually nudge me, throw something at me across the Zoom when it's or the session when it's time to wind down. We'll probably be landing the plane soon enough. But I mean, something that I really want to emphasize, and going back to our story, is just keeping in mind that career is really long.
Yes.
So again, this is a point that I think you are one of the people in my career in life who just helped to bring me fully along here. Now, both of us could maybe like emphasize to our listeners together that one trap you could fall into in career is the moment that you're in. Okay, I'm in this role at this company. This person's in this role at this company. These are like the power dynamics of this moment. And it's all about like, you could fall into the trap where like your whole world feels like that moment of that company. And I could say when you get on a little bit, in years in career, and you kind of have that broader perspective of like, that was just one moment. That was like one moment in time. A lot of those dynamics, like, frankly, don't matter or laughable like a year, 5 years, 10 years later. But what does matter could be the relationship. It could actually be the people and the relationships are what could last across your whole career. So you really did an amazing job, and I'm very grateful for after that moment ended of that one dynamic and that one moment of like everything at DH Care was like the top priority. But here we are years later, and that moment and some of those dynamics have passed, but friendships, connections, network, the humans involved, the relationships are what go across your whole life.
I totally agree. And I think that is like the perfect place for us to probably wind down this conversation.
Dang, what about a couple more hours maybe? Yeah, okay.
Maybe like bonus episode. I don't know.
Bonus episode.
Season 2.
That's a great way of managing me. Right? Yeah, it's another bonus episode, Joe. And then I sign off, I'm all happy. I'm like, wait, she's promised me like 94 bonus episodes so far. When is this all going to happen?
We don't know.
We don't know.
Our lives are
unknown. Life and career are long.
Yeah. All right. So again, to recap, I think the recap is start small, send some notes, go to the events. And I think the overarching theme, if I'm going to do it in true Lynda fashion, is like, get over yourself.
Yeah, I love it. Put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Get over yourself. Get over like little tiny bits of failure, being ignored. Who cares? It's all good. Fine. Focus on the wins.
Yes. All right. Well, we've come to that moment, Joe.
Yes.
Where, I ask you what's got you a little hot under the collar. So tell me, what's got you hot under the collar?
So something bringing me tons of joy. And one more point I want to make on networking, because I think that's what you asked. It's like, for example, today, before we recorded, I had the most wonderful coffee and indulgent treat meetup with a former coworker. And it was a networky kind of thing. We're so excited now to maybe do work together and keep, hanging out and all of the things. And it really gave me a lot of joy. It was at Catfight Coffee, Boonton, New Jersey, best cafe in the country, hands down. But, this particular meetup started because one of us posted something on LinkedIn, probably me as of late, would be more likely. And I think my friend, Caitlin, she liked and commented. She was like, way to go, Joe, or whatever she wrote. And I said, thanks for the support, Caitlin. We should catch up again soon. She's like, let's do it. I'm here. And, we took it to DMs or texts or whatever, and we met up. And I just think it's a corny but very tangible real life example. If anyone's listening to this and you see something, post something, you're like, oh, look at them or their fancy poster. Like, why not just pause? Why not stop for a second? Write them a comment of support. Oftentimes with me, Lynda, because I'm not witty, I don't always have great witticisms or quips ready. But again, I've gotten over myself to the point that I am okay just writing to somebody like, awesome job, or this is phenomenal, or like so proud, or a clap emoji, because you know what? It's probably going to give them a little bit of smile to feel that support. And then who knows? You might message with each other, meet up for coffee and pastries, and be able to help each other out in career. But it just starts with taking a moment sometimes. So that's my answer. Lynda, what has you really hot and bothered under the collar?
We're probably going to steer clear of hot and bothered, but we'll say hot under the collar. So feel good about that.
Can you hear me trying to figure out what the expression was? I'm very uncomfortable with all of it. I don't know what any of it means.
It's fine. It's fine. So for me, I think I'm going to bring it full circle to really bad customer service. That like,
take it back.
Just like that gets me just
Hashtag.
hot under the collar because hashtag poor customer service has to go.
Hashtag hot and bothered.
Yeah. No, that's going to put me on the wrong side of TikTok.
Got you.
Promise you, Fred.
Back to that. Another theme of today's episode we weren't expecting.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I don't know if you remember Twitter After Dark. Yeah.
Abort.
Again, a story for another day. Anywho.
Bonus episode.
Yeah, bonus episode. All the hashtags. So anyway, bad customer service just gets me just hot under the collar because it's really not that hard, truthfully. I think that people who work in customer experience, customer service, customer support, whatever we're calling it, I think that they have some of the hardest jobs. However, it is easier to be nice to somebody than it is to be mean to somebody. And providing poor customer service to me is just, it just bugs me. So
did you have another one from the past few days or week of life, or this is just all the times, all the things?
This was, less than 12 hours ago, so it was very fresh. Yep. And that's what we do. We provide fresh experiences in the business of humans. So.
Yes. And that point of emphasis, as corny as it, but look, you were corny too, not just me, but it is profoundly true. It is easier and more enjoyable to be nice, including when you're at work and you're providing service. I am a service professional and a care professional through and through in life. And it's something that I take pride in.
Yes.
Do you know, Lynda, I don't know if you have one of these, my fantasy, which we'll see if I ever actually do, is I want to get to, if CX Joe does well enough, I tuck away when it does well enough, and I've got the kids' college funds tucked away and the mortgage paid off and everything. I want to go back and wait tables again, or be a bartender, because I never actually got to do that. But I really want to. Just want to pour that draft for someone and be like, here you go, ma'am. Here you go, sir. You enjoy that beer now. It just sounds so fun. Thank you.
I want you to be the bartender. So I hope that I do not dream of doing those things. I do dream of getting a beverage poured for me.
Oh, look at that. That's could work out very well. So 20 years from now, when we're living our best life, it's me basically serving you drinks.
And I'm like, sir.
Enjoy, Lynda. Thank you.
What a lovely
Pat me on the head. Yep. Yes. Okay. We figured that out too.
Okay. Well, thanks for listening, everybody.
On that note.
Yep. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.